How you doing? Welcome to Tinkering with Harleys. Today we're going to be working on a transmission, but before we get to that, I want to thank all of you who have subscribed. I greatly appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, by all means, please do. We're going to keep putting these videos up, and when you subscribe, hit the little bell so that way it notifies you when I put a video up. And the comments that you've been putting in, I enjoy very much. I read every one of them and I respond to every one of them that I get. And you can either put your comments in the comments section on YouTube, or you can email me with a comment or a suggestion. And if you have suggestions, by all means, put them in. That tells me what you guys want to see. Not necessarily what I think you want to see. But at any rate, as I get work that I haven't done before and shown on camera, and I've done all this stuff before. In fact, I've done it for about 50 years. So, but things that I haven't shown before, these are the things I'm going to be showing you. Now, today what we have is a transmission that is stuck in neutral. And it won't come out of neutral. It's just stuck. So what I've done was I pulled the transmission out of the bike, and I'm talking about the entire transmission, just not the assembly, the gear assembly. I've got the whole case on the bench. So what you're going to see today is me troubleshooting the transmission as to why it's stuck in neutral. So that's enough of that, and now we'll get to the transmission. Okay, this is a transmission we took out of it's a 2004, 2005 Softail. And the complaint that the guy had was he was coming away from a stoplight and hit was in first gear, went to go into second gear, and it wouldn't go into second gear. It stayed in neutral. So as you can see, it turns fine, but it won't shift at all. It's stuck in neutral. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this top cover off and we're going to see what's going on. When it's inside the bike, you got to sit there and bend over, and this way it's just easier to work on. Okay, let's keep all the bolts together. Okay, as I look down in here, it looks like it's getting getting plenty of lubrication, but that thing is not shifting at all. It just won't move. So we're gonna take a look and see what we can do, see what we can find. Let's see if I can give you a better look here. That shift drum is not moving at all. That shift drum is just locked up now. It looks like it's getting plenty of lubrication. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the shift drum off and see what we got. This I'm not going to use a gun for. This I'm going to do by hand, because I want to feel what I got going on. One, two, ooh, that was loose. Let me just see something here. No, something's bent. Don't know what it is, but it just won't shift. So we'll get that off of there. Now there's dowel pins down in here, so that when you take this off, you got to be careful as to not drop those dowels down into the transmission. So then you're going to have to fish them out. Now when I drained the oil out of this, there was not excessive metal in it, and when I took the throttle sensor out, there wasn't excessive metal in that. Well, these aren't coming out easy. These feel funky. Hell of a lot of Loctite on these. Or we got something else going on. And we're going to lift the pawl shifter up. Break this loose. I think we're going to break it loose. There we go. We're missing, no, the dowel's in the pillow block. Okay. That's neutral right there. The drum doesn't look too bad. Well, let's see. Yeah, we got an issue with the pillow block because it's shifting okay now. What I think has happened here is all these look stripped, the thread holes. And it looks like helicoils were used to correct it. And a hell of a lot of Loctite, because this thing shifts okay now. I think the issue's with the pillow blocks. There's so much crud on this one, I can't even pull this one out. Same thing with this. This is just stuck right in. But somebody used helicoil. Look at that. You can't even get that dowel pin in there. There's so much Loctite, and I can feel the metal on there from the helicoil. It won't allow the bolt to come through. So we're gonna do this at a different time. There's no point boring you with this. Okay, now we've got the shift drum off, and the one thing that we discovered as we took it off, the 4 bolts that hold the pillow block, that hold the shift drum in place, had an extraordinary amount of Loctite on it. This is just, I mean, the crud on there is unbelievable. The other thing we discovered was if you look down in there, in this hole right here, you can see that it's been stripped out, and you can see around the edges right here that the dowel pin moved. Now, if you move over to this one, and let me get a light. I don't know how well you can see that, but that is also stripped. And if you move to the rear one, the threads are stripped on that, on all of them. So, in fact, in this front one, I can still see, yeah, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I can still see a helicoil in there. So what that tells me is somebody over torqued these. Now, once the shift drum came off, this transmission shifts fine. So the shift drum was bound up. When you come over to the shift drum, the holes look okay on this. The dowel pins are at different depths, but that could have been from pulling out. But this one seems to be excessively in there. Now, whether it's the wrong size or not, I don't know. I don't see any damage on the shift drum. So what somebody did was they over torqued these 4 screws, the 2 here and the 2 here, and they stripped them. And they either tried to retap them, and that didn't work, and they used helicoils in there, and they'd used an unbelievable amount of Loctite in there. I've never seen one come out like that before. I actually couldn't pull the bolts through the dowels because there was just gobs and gobs of blue Loctite hardened onto there. So I don't see any damage from here, but the next step, this has to be dealt with. Now, I don't know whether I can retap these to work or not, or whether it's going to have to go out to a machine shop. But the next step we're going to go to is we're going to remove the pulley, and, well, we're going to remove the race first, and the pulley, and then we're going to take out the shifter forks, and we're going to get a good look at this gear set to make sure the gear set's okay. Okay, now we're going to get ready to pull this race off, this inner race off for the main shaft. Now, these things are notorious for walking in or being installed too tight. And I've seen all kinds of different methods used to take these off. I've seen guys use die grinders and chisels and stuff. There's a much easier way to do that. And what you do is you lock the transmission in gear. You slide the shifter forks, and I'll show you here. Once you lock it into gear, you put your wrench on this, loosen this up, and take it out a little bit leave the nut on it and then give it a couple of shots with a rubber mallet. And what it'll do, it'll move the main shaft out, which will allow you access to getting under here with your tool and getting that out. And that way you're not risking, because this is a tight area here, you don't want to damage this main shaft at all. And using a die grinder or a chisel, you're probably going to damage it at some point. So that's the easiest way I have found in order to perform this. So we'll get to it right now. Okay, there it is right there. Now it's completely inside that race. So all we have to do is get our wrench on here and take this off, and we'll see how tight it is. Now this one's got some wear on it. It's been in there for a while. And sometimes if they're a little bit difficult to pull out, you just apply a little bit of heat to them. If you're doing this on the bench like I am, you don't have the benefit of it being locked into the frame. So you need to use one of these. This is for the pulley. It'll hold the pulley down while you're cranking on things, and it'll keep it from moving, supposedly. And what you want to do is you want to get a piece of wood under there, like that. And we'll turn this so you can see it, so that when that pulley starts to turn, it hits on the wood rather than your workbench, tearing your workbench up. And you can see that race just inching out of there. And this way we're not damaging the shaft at all. We're just getting a nice even pull. We don't even need this. And this one's coming off easy. This one's not bad at all. Yeah, she's just about off. When she slips past that shoulder, there it is. That's Muggs. Everybody say hi to Muggs. Say hi, Muggs. Somebody here, buddy? Okay, back to work now. Okay, now we're going to take the two bolts out alongside the nut, and you just hold down on this. And we'll need an extension for this one because of that. Muggs, relax, buddy. Because of the pulley lock. There we go. Slide this out just a bit. Okay, there's one. And then after we get this off, we'll get that big nut off of there, off the main shaft. And then we'll be able to go around the other side and pull the door off. And this is how that goes on there. Okay, now what this does is it winds on here. Now remember, this is all left-hand thread. And what this does is it helps stabilize this. This is a socket you need to use. And you just slide that over there like that. And that's how it locks in. Now remember, this is left-hand thread. So in order to loosen it, you have to go clockwise with this. Okay, now what you want to do is, I use an air gun. Not everybody has one. This is kind of a bear to take off. Let me get this in here. Come on. There we go. And remember, this is left-hand thread, so it goes clockwise to loosen it. And there it is, it's off. Now you take and you loosen your pulley lock. Pull that right off of there. And this just pulls right out. Okay. Now we'll spin the transmission around. We don't need this block of wood any longer. Spin the transmission around to this side. Maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe I did need that piece of wood. I always break them loose with it by hand first. I never use a gun first. Because I don't want to strip them. Oops. Okay, this is the last one. Now, before you slide the gear assembly out, you want to tape all this up. It keeps from damaging the threads. The threads can damage the seals, and you don't want to do that. The threads in the spline can damage the seals when you pull it out. So you want to tape everything up. So you just wrap up your spline and your threads real good, and that way you don't damage your seals. Now it's a habit I've gotten into over the years, so you know that old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Okay, now we're ready to pull out the gear assembly. We also have to take out this. This holds the shift forks. And you want to check that to make sure it's not bent. And this one is not. And then pull your shift forks out. The shift forks look pretty good. I don't see any excessive wear on them. They look good. Now what you'll need to do to get this out, the rubber mallet. You give it a couple of cracks. Okay, there we go. Now we can pull out the gear assembly. And there is the gear assembly. I'll slide this up out of the way. And these gears look just fine. I don't see anything. I don't see any worn teeth. The dogs all look good. We're going to measure everything later on, but not right now. But the gear assembly, that's it. That's how it comes out. The gear set out so we can get a better look inside here. Now, as I look inside the case, I don't see any metal, anything excessive at all. But what we did find, as I said before, is here and here where the dowel pins go in and the shift drum bolts down through the pillow blocks. These are all different depths. And I can see helicoils in all four. Now, on this one here, the shoulder for the dowel pin, and this is your dowel pin, the shoulder's gone. And this one has also ovaled out. So has this one, and so has this one. Now, all these, we measured them, and all of these holes are a different depth. So what that tells me is the shift drum was moving. Wasn't moving much, but it finally got to a point where it had been moving over time, because this is something that didn't happen overnight. This has been gradual. What happened is the shift drum got cocked on here, and when it got cocked, that's when it locked in neutral. It wouldn't allow the shift drum to rotate any longer. Now, if you look down into these holes that hold the shift drum, you can see that shoulder is just about gone for the dowel pin. And you can see the helicoil down in there. Same thing with this one, but the shoulder is still there, but you can see the helicoil. This one here, and you can't really get a good look at it, but you can see the helicoil in there also. And you can see the helicoil in there. Now, the inside of the case looks pretty good. There's no excessive metal at all. So, because these have been ovaled out, they're all different depths and shapes. I don't believe I can retap these. I believe this is going to have to go to a machine shop for repair. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish stripping the transmission. We're going to take the seals out, the pawl shifter out right here, and get this ready to go to the machine shop. Okay, now we got the gear set out. We're going to strip this case completely down because it's going to the machine shop. So we want to give them a nice clean case to work with, and that way we don't get metal in anything, and we can get that all taken care of. So the first thing we're going to do here is take out the pawl shifter, which sometimes is a pain in the butt because this is just a little itty bitty snap ring. Okay, now we got this one. We got it loosened up. Now we'll just get it the rest of the way off. We got it out of the groove. There it comes. Yep, and there it goes. Now it's off. Now you take and you just push this out. And there's your pawl shifter. And there's the ring, or the spacer that goes over it. Now wipe this off. And there's the seal in there. Now we'll start with the seals. Now, On these, you've got the seal here for the pawl. You've got 3 seals on this, on the main shaft, on the main gear. You've got the main seal, which everybody knows about. Then you have one that is not in the manual and everybody misses. That's this one. This is the 5th gear seal, and everybody misses this one. So if you ever replace your main seal and you still have an oil leak, you probably missed this one, and that's where the oil leak's coming from. So we'll just take our screwdriver and we'll get this popped out. And there's the pawl seal. Now I'll do the same thing with the fifth gear seal. There's that one. Now for the main seal, what I like to do is put a sheet metal screw in there and pull that out that way. This is just the way I do it. There we go. And then take the pliers and there it is. Pops it right out. So that's the easiest way to do it. At least that's the way I do them. I know there's people that would argue that it's not the right way to do it. Now, this is your spacer. Take that out. That looks like it's in pretty rough shape. The last seal you have is right here. This is your quad seal. And it sets right down there in that little groove. So that's your quad seal. So now all the seals are out of it. So now we're going to go over to the press and we're going to press out the main gear. We're going to press out the counter shafts bearing. And then we're going to come back over here and we're going to take the this big little snap ring off and get this bearing out. Okay, now when you start to press this out, just keep your hand underneath there so it doesn't drop. And there it is. There it goes, and that'll pop right out. And there it is. Now we're going to take the snap ring out for the main bearing. Now for this, you want a really good pair of snap ring pliers. Now I've got these. I had another pair of these, but they grew legs and walked away on me. But this snap ring is a bear to get out. So you definitely need a good pair of snap ring pliers. one side's loose. And I get the other side. You might have to mess with this a couple of times before it comes out. Sometimes they just don't want to come out. There we go. And that is the snap ring. And like I said, you want to have a really good pair of snap ring pliers for this. Okay, now we just have to see if this that bearing's coming right out of there. We don't have to press it out. So, this case is now ready to go to the machine shop. Okay, that's going to pretty much do it for today. We found a problem with the transmission. We found that the holes for the pillow blocks have been stripped out, and that they were they used helicoils and a lot of Loctite to lock that pillow block down. But over a course of time, that wore out and the shift drum cocked, and that's what caused it to be stuck in neutral. And this bike I've ridden with this guy for at least 8 years. This bike has never had a transmission problem before. So I'm not condemning the work that was done on it, the work that was done at the time, and I don't know who did it. They made the bike work, and it lasted for at least 8 years, because he's owned this bike 8 years. So it probably lasted longer than that. So I'm not condemning the work at all. The fix worked. So, but now it's gone past that, and now it has to be addressed. And we're going to try and save the case. So the case is going to have to go out to a machine shop, because those holes are just too rounded out for me to retap them. They're too big and they're egg-shaped. So it's going to have to be filled in and retapped. So hopefully a machine shop can perform that and we can save that case, because the new case cost for one of these about $650, and the rest of the case is fine. It's just where the pillow blocks bolt down. So that's what needs to be fixed. So again, if you are watching these videos and you haven't subscribed yet, by all means, please do. If you have a comment, put it in the comments. If you want to email me, and you can find that on my home channel. If you have any suggestions, put them in, and we will keep track of them and get to them as we can. So until the next time, thank you for watching, and everybody be safe out there.